This is a probable cause affidavit, and they don't have to lay out their whole case here. They just have to make up probable cause.
They went through a very lengthy analysis of the cell phone. What people have to understand is the cell phone is not like GPS.
That the scientist and the science behind this, when they do match his DNA with the DNA that was found at the crime scene, I think that will be an extremely important piece of evidence. 51% that there was a crime that was committed.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. So we're going to talk about the fact that Ann Taylor admitted that it was BK's car accidentally during the hearing. I'm going to show you proof of that. But I also want to talk about the fact that Bryan Kohberger was seen lingering on campus in the weeks before the November 13th crimes. Now, he was described as a creepy loner who, quote, was the type to stare. One sophomore told People magazine, and this is according to the New York Post, that she saw BK drinking water at the food court at the University of Idaho. Now, mind you, BK attended Washington State University, where he was also a teaching assistant. Why was he hanging out at the food court of the student union by himself at the University of Idaho? She said, quote, he was the type to stare. He wouldn't look away if you caught him staring, like he wanted you to notice that he was looking at you. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't say anything, just stared. She said, quote, I told my friend not to be suspicious, but to look at him because the eye contact was making me uncomfortable. Another student said that she saw BK so often that she thought that BK attended the University of Idaho. She said, quote, it's not a huge school. It's like a small town. So you start seeing the same faces again and again. They become familiar, like you know that you've seen them in class or around campus. The student also described BK as, quote, just really quiet and really intense staring, she added that, quote, he made me uncomfortable. This is multiple times where we've heard people talking about how uncomfortable Bryan Kohberger made them. A third student told the news outlet that they recognized BK after he was arrested and charged with doing away with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. So this is three different students that recognized Bryan Kohberger as hanging out on the campus of the University of Idaho. A law enforcement source did confirm to People magazine that they believed that Bryan Kohberger did spend some time on the University of Idaho campus. Quote, whether or not Kohberger is guilty of doing away with those kids, I'm watching my words here, there is something wrong if a grown man who isn't a student can just wander around campus. This is according to Mar Sampson, whose daughter, who was a student at the University of Idaho. She says, quote, everyone needs to be aware of their surroundings and should feel free to speak up if someone makes them uncomfortable. The alleged sighting by three students was not the first time that BK made women feel uncomfortable. As you recall, during last week's live stream, I talked to you about the owner of the Seven Sirens Brewing Company back in Pennsylvania, stating that BK, quote, harassed women at his bar. He usually sat alone observing and watching other patrons until he started drinking. And his behavior was such a concern at Seven Sirens that employees put a note in the company system about him. Quote, staff put it in there. Hey, this guy makes creepy comments. Keep an eye on him. He'll have 2 or 3 beers and just get a little too comfortable. So the fact that BK turned off his cell phone or set it to airplane mode during the crimes, and I'm going to talk about the slip-up that Ann Taylor made in just a second, so please stay with me. BK would have understood that taking his cell phone with him that night was a risk, so why did he take it? Was this an oversight? I don't think so. It was a calculated risk, in my opinion. And the reason he took the risk was that he knew he couldn't get in and out of the area without his car being tracked or being visible on CCTV or NPR road cameras. So the main priority would have been for him not to fall under law enforcement scrutiny that night, going to or coming back from the crime scene. So I don't think this was being careless on his part. I just think he was being overconfident. There's been a lot of speculation as to why BK left the hearing without saying thank you or even acknowledging his defense attorneys. It's gone anywhere from he had to use the restroom to he was upset. So it made me wonder, what was he so upset about? Well, listen to this exchange, because Ann Taylor lets the cat out of the bag. Listen to this.
Could we address one more deadline briefly?
Yes, of course. You all give me deadlines. I'll write them down.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's been an ongoing discussion beginning most recently with the state's request for scheduling order, and I believe Ms. Taylor briefly addressed it at the last hearing. There's been an ongoing discussion about the alibi deadline, and the state is asking the court to either limit the defendant to presenting evidence about the disclosure that he made related to the alibi, which was that he was driving around the night of the homicides, but not allowing any further discussion or evidence of an alibi, given the amount of time that has passed since the state requested that alibi disclosure. Alternatively, since it was in the court's scheduling order initially prior to the trial getting vacated, we would ask the court to set a 10-day deadline now, because that is consistent with the alibi statute. The state does not believe it is appropriate to tie the alibi to the jury trial date in this case. The statute that sets forth that 10-day timeline is completely separate from Rule 16 and other discovery deadlines through the litigation process. I think at this point, there has been so much time that has passed, and it has frankly causes the state great alarm that the defense is discussing calling upwards of 400 witnesses during the innocence phase when we don't have, potentially don't have a full alibi disclosure. And when you look at cases regarding appeals from issues that arise during alibis that come up at trial, these cases are all defendants appealing a conviction because the state doesn't get a second chance. If the state gets ambushed at trial, that's it for us. We're asking the court to hold the defendant to a fair alibi deadline, and I think that the time has come. Thank you, Your Honor.
My understanding was that was it, but I may be wrong. Ms. Taylor.
No. When the court vacated the trial setting, the court vacated all of the deadlines, including the alibi deadline. That wasn't carved out as one that was still held through when the court vacated the rest of its scheduling order. So I don't think that we're foreclosed from that. The court also has the ability to give an extension besides the limited time by statute. In this case, it's more than Brian was just driving around. We have let the state and the court know that we expect that will be supported by expert testimony and by cross-examination of the state's experts. I need their full cast report and the rest of the discovery related to that before I can say more about that. So to tie me to a deadline when I don't have the rest of the discovery that I've been waiting for that would relate to that will mean that I will be back asking the court to reopen it. My expert can't finish until I get the rest of the discovery as well.
And the discovery you're talking about is a video of the car?
No, I am.
What do you?
So the video that we talk about is one that I think the state's going to use in its case that I don't have full video on, that I'm not talking about any video of Brian's car.
Did you catch it? What you just heard was Judge John Judge saying, quote, "And this discovery you're talking about is a video of the car?" And then Ann Taylor says, "No." The judge says, "What do you mean?" And Ann Taylor says, "The video we talk about is one I think the state's going to use in its case that I don't have a video on, that I'm not talking about any video of Brian's car." Listen for yourself one more time.
That I'm not talking about any video of Brian's car.
What do you think? Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss breaking news in this case.